For me, Napoli deserved it. 100%.
What an end to the game. Look at that.
Napoli got robbed today. Napoli got robbed today.
Now I've officially seen it all.
Why it makes it such a difficult pill for Grella to swallow is Grella is a big fan of Inter and compliments Inter and how they are. The team. Yes,
opposite. You think I care about Inter?
No, I never said you care about them, but you've been very complimentary into the style, the system, how
we take a tie.
I wanted the best football to win. But the way they played today was a disgrace.
That is not a reflection of
By the way, Inter so far this season, we built them up as the best. They did not beat Milan, they did not beat Juventus, and they did not beat Napoli. This season.
Something is missing from these Inter side.
They have
I don't know what it is.
Not only did they not beat, they lost to Milan and Juventus in one of those games.
To me, this is an unrecognizable Inter side in the big games.
They're supposed to be the best.
Do you know that? Do you still see them as the favourites for Scudetto?
Yeah, because normally they don't play like this.
Yeah.
Normally they play much better. This was eye-opening to me. If you're an Inter fan and
but haven't you seen this before, as to Marco's point, against the big teams?
Against the big teams, it seems to me like they're missing a gear or two. Mm-hmm. There's something strange about them. And we've often said, okay, well, they're the oldest team in the league. They're playing a lot of competition. We're trying to find the reason. But I don't think it's clear. You know, Inzaghi's come out and said, oh, maybe the mentality or maybe different things. But this Inter side was unrecognizable for me. The way that they were just like, okay, we'll try to hold on to this. I mean, clearing balls, giving up set pieces, naive performance, inexperienced performance, tired, slow performance. That's as bad as I've seen him play in 4 years covering this league.
Yeah, I think that's the worst Inter.
In 4 years, that's one of the worst games I've watched Inter play.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think that's the worst I've seen Inter. With everything and how much I praise them about the players, the organisation, just the style and how they go about their business. Today, they were lacking everything that we've complimented from.
That's the team that played in the Champions League final with Manchester City.
That's the worst performance in 4 years. They still got a point.
They got a point.
That's absolutely true, and they're playing in so many different competitions,
they didn't
so
deserve
there's still
the
a
point.
lot to come on. But I would say for Napoli, it's incredible for how bad it's been in the last month. They learned a lot about themselves. You said this really well. In the second half, to be able to get back into this match against this Inter, where things were not going your way in terms of scoring a goal, this will be huge belief for them going on to the season.
Start giving it all that. You didn't even back them to win today. You just sit there and be quiet.
Did they win?
I'm the only one that backed Napoli. Sit there and be quiet.
They didn't win.
So everything after today is all said and done, but it's unchanged with Atalanta dropping points earlier. Inter obviously remain at the top of the table. But Grell, you just said that was Inter's worst performance that you've seen in 4 years. So in some ways, they'll be happy to come out with this in the way that they have, right?
It was terrible. And now every single team in Europe and every single team that plays against Inter knows exactly how to frustrate them. And if you put them under a difficult press and put them in a physical match of football, they can't cope. They tried to defend. They played Catenaccio. That was like an Allegri-style Catenaccio for 90 minutes of football.
Your favorite.
Conceded 11, 12 corners, conceded so many free kicks at the tip of their box, relied on last-ditch defending from Bastoni the entire time. That performance would shake me if I was the manager. If I was Inzaghi, I'd look at that performance and say, what were we doing? They didn't stick to their core values, didn't hit on the counter, didn't show quality. Big name players gone missing, and that was a performance. Yeah, you walk out of there with a tie, but that's not the truth of the story. The truth is you were second best, and not by a little bit, by a lot. And you should walk out of there with nothing.
Has it changed your opinion on the Scudetto race? And has Inter still been the favourites to win the whole thing?
They have the least amount of weaknesses from all the teams.
Still.
But they've shown some big weaknesses.
You know what their weakness is? Their weakness is the head-to-head battles. They don't win in the big games. And to think about an Inter that is as good as we've built up, and maybe we do have a little bit of recency bias because Inter is competing in all different competitions. But the worrying part to me is you look at a season where they didn't beat Milan. They lost to Milan and tied Milan. They didn't beat Juventus. They lost to Juventus. They tied Juventus. And now you didn't beat Napoli. They didn't win any of those big games. That, to me, is worrying. And, again, it just goes back to a point that I've been feeling for a little while when I'm watching Inter, that they're capable of these crazy things, like losing 2-0 in the Supercoppa when you're up at halftime. They feel like there is a lot of quality in the side. It was a different game than we're used to for them right now. But there's something missing from this Inter side. Even if you can't put your finger on it, you absolutely see it through the results.
Yeah. Well, Nigel, you said that this is going to be the Scudetto decider. Now it's a draw. Who's going to win?
I think it still favours Napoli, in my opinion. I think Napoli will grow from it. They'll get a lot of confidence from that result. Their fixtures are more favourable. And in defence of Inter, for me, I feel that you have to understand they're competing in so many competitions. And even as poor as they had in the office today, they're still top. They're still top of the league and they're still competing in so many different competitions. So you've got to give them credit for that. Yes, there is something missing, but you don't get there by luck. That's the reality of what they're dealing with right now. Horrible day at the office, not to the standards of what we know to them, but they came out with a draw. They didn't lose, so we can't be too hard on them. At the end of the day, if anything, it's Napoli that should be having more pressure on them because they didn't get the win. They're at home. They're the one that needed to win. This will be still a good result for Napoli and Inter, but for Inter, they're competing in so many different fronts that it does make it a lot more difficult for them compared to Napoli.
I'll say also for Napoli, just quickly, is that, yeah, they did win. They won the battle in terms of the tactic of how they wanted to play the game and how they set it up, and they competed much more, and they showed more energy and more will to win. I understand all that. But then if you want to also look at Napoli, if Antonio Conte is looking at his side, you have maybe 25 moments where if the delivery is a little better, there's this much more quality, you win the game.
But it wasn't.
And they just didn't have that quality. And that's why when you ask, all right, who's the Scudetto favorite? You look at Napoli, you're like, how do you get in that many positions and not take advantage of them? Right? You don't have the players. You don't replace Kvara. We know all their problems. So you look at them. Then you look at Inter. You see these total bogus performances against bigger teams. They look tired today as well. You look at Atalanta. They can't beat Venezia at home. So, I mean, with all these things going on, it's hard to pick a winner.
When you look at this, you'd have to say, again, it favours Napoli. Napoli can't afford to trip over any hurdles. And more than likely, Inter look like the team that could still trip over more hurdles because of the amount of competitions that they've got. That's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Atalanta's right there.
No, you know why?
Atalanta's
because
right there.
Coming into this last month, it's been brutal for Napoli. It feels like it was a balloon and a lot of the air came out because they lost to Como. They tied 3 games to Udinese, Lazio, and Roma. And there was this feeling of, is the dream gone? Tonight, they proved that the dream is not gone. If they had lost this game, it would have felt like that. Yeah. Absolutely. Even if they got a tie, for me, it's not just that. There was a reaction. That second half was great from Napoli. It showed that despite...
First half. It was after the goal winning.
Excuse me.
The whole 90 minutes.
The second half to continue pushing, because in the last games, my fear was Napoli are falling off in the second half. I said maybe they're tired, they're getting hit with injuries. Perfect example is the game against Como. They play a good first half, second half, they died down. They didn't do that. So to me, that was the response that I needed to watch from Napoli, that they still believe. And guess what? They have all their guys still to come back from injury. The Neres, the Anguissa, the 2 left backs that now they get back with Oliveira and Spinazzola. So for me, I learned a lot about that Napoli, and Najo makes the point once again that their schedule on paper is favorable. We know you could slip up against the small teams, Atalanta tie against Venezia, but if you look at it from a rational standpoint, Antonio Conte will be circling every single one of these last 11 matches and saying, this is a final, that is a final, that is a final. While Inter have to look and play Coppa Italia, Champions League, all these other matches.
They've had another sandwich week, haven't they, with Coppa Italia? They've got Champions League coming up as well, and 11 matches to go. Doesn't even really feel like that big of a stretch.
Who's the happier coach from the first half?
From the first or the whole game?
Who's the happier coach from the first half?
Both coaches will be happy.
No, who's the happier coach in the first half?
Both coaches will be happy. You can't pick one because it's different perfected and different stories. So both coaches will be happy in the first half for different reasons.
You guys saw 1-0. 1-0 means nothing. If you watched and you saw Napoli were good from the first minute to the final minute.
No one sat here and said Napoli were not good.
In the first half, you guys said Inter will be happy with 1-0.
Because they're away from home. So from Inter's perspective, they will be happy.
But
why would they not be happy if they're away from home and they're winning 1-0? They know they're not playing well, but they're winning from home. You know, it doesn't matter. If you're in that Inter dressing room, you will be happy. You know it. What's at stake.
You know what the problem is?
You're away from home, you're 1-0 up.
Says it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get the results. Put everything else out the window. But today you cared about the performance.
That's Inter, the clearing the ball like that in the final moment. I thought they were playing against Real Madrid. I thought Mbappe was on the field the way they were defending. Last ditch and clearing it and under pressure. Couldn't connect the pass.
But you got to look at the amount of games, but look at the amount of games they're playing and everything that they're doing. You're going to get a bad day at the office. That's all I'll look at it. You don't become a bad team overnight. Like you just said, it's the worst performance we've seen from them in a while.
I think that's it.
I don't think you can look
They looked pretty bad in a couple other games. Fiorentina,
but I think they
in other games. Either way, you know why I say that from Napoli's perspective, why they wouldn't be happy? It's because how many times, and we were almost going to sit here if that goal doesn't go in from Billing, the substitute, and say, where was the quality in the final third? They're able to put this pressure, they bring this intensity, the set pieces could be a whole nother conversation, but it's that frustration of lacking the creativity, lacking that final ball.
Here's a look at the momentum chart. I mean, this tells really the story, doesn't it, of how dominant Napoli were and the goal that Inter got.
Conte's going to frame this and put it in the locker room.
Grella, you don't like graphics, but do you like this one?
It tells me my eyes are pretty good.
These hearts.
Tells me my eyes are pretty good.
You're saying that, but no one's disagreeing
all
with
you talked about was how Inter are this Michelin star restaurant. They're going to kill. They're so much better than Napoli. And now today, you see that Napoli is the one who played better.
The momentum chart showed me that I saw the game perfect.
We all saw the game perfect, but you were the one who backed Inter to win it. And today, you said Inter were going to get the result today.
But if
Inter were poor,
like that, you're never going to
100%, they were poor. But at the end of the day, you got to give the story of both sides. The story's not going to be same in both dressing rooms. For an Inter perspective, it's going to be, we were awful today. We still came with a draw. You know what it's like when you've been in them dressing rooms. You're not going to play perfect every game.
You think Napoli taking a positive out? I mean, Inter taking a positive out from today?
They got a point. They got a point. I guarantee you, Inzaghi will be happy with him to say we got a point because he knows that we're not at the standard, but we still come with a point. We don't come with a loss.
And they have.
What
look how many injuries they have.
From being negative?
They're not going to win anything playing like that.
Look how many injuries they have.
What are you going to gain from being negative in that dressing room?
Okay, but that's part of it.
We could do lists of every team's injuries. All I'm saying
that rationalizes how you feel about a match.
Look, we come on this show, right? We come and do TV, right? The best we can. You might have a good show, you might have a bad show, but you have to stick to your philosophy of football. You have to stick to your personality. You have to stick to who you are, right? Same thing in football. They didn't stick to who they were today. They went away from it. And in the big moments and in the big games, we just said they don't get the results. In the big moments and in the big games, in Champions League, now in the Coppa Italia moving forward, if they play like that and revert to, oh, man, we got a 1-0 lead, let's go back and let's just clear it, they're going to lose. Because we just said they're playing a Napoli side that lost Kvara, lost all the quality. They have very little quality in the team. We just showed all the missed chances that could have been goals. When they do that against better opposition, they will lose the match. If they don't stick true to the ideology of their football, why do we love them? Why do we talk about them? Because we say, wow, the wing-back system, the way the midfield three is the best we've seen, the hold-up strikers. Oh, Thuram's been incredible. They didn't do that today.
I think we all agree here. I think that we're just saying that in the perspective of an entire season, with the amount of games played, you're going to have these moments. And do they have too many of these moments? Yes, that's why we're a little bit scared about what they have to do. But when you still think about the goal, you said it before as well, they still could go on and win the Scudetto, the Champions League, and the Coppa Italia. That's still all available. But you're going to have what team this season in all of Europe has been perfect, has played a game well every time. There's times at Liverpool, they lose to Plymouth. You could lose games. It could happen in seasons. You don't always stick to the same game plan.
It could happen on a bigger scale of things as well. Is Napoli are your biggest rivals for the Serie A title, and you still come with a point with being absolutely
away from home.
But that's not
absolutely awful.
That's not the truth. That's when you look under the cover, there's a problem. We're just saying it. When you look under the cover of Inter and you look at the engine, you start to see there's problems under there. Right now, you're putting the hood down and saying, oh, yeah, they got a point. I understand.
But every team has problems.
I get a point away from home. I'm happy, too.
What's the biggest problem?
But the reality is that you have to look at that performance for what it was. And you're going to say 1-1 is what the table's going to say. But the truth is that was actually like a 3-0 performance in favor of Napoli. That's the way you have to see that game for me as a manager. You have to look at it and say, probably should have lost that game today. Yeah, I understand you're happy, but you got to start fixing whatever the issue is. What's
the biggest problem?
They look zapped.
They look tired. They look tired. Yeah. I agree with you. They look tired. They look like, for me, they lack that ability to really be a goal threat, and that the creativity element comes in it. And I think that plays a part. They don't have people who can carry the ball that much apart from Marcus Thuram, and you can't rely on him so much.